Hello, my name is Alun. Today I'm facilitating another session of Fate of the Quadrant. This is my Fate hack inspired by Modiphius's Star Trek adventures. So we can play in that world with a Fate-like hack. This game is organized as part of the Open Hearth gaming community's monthly calendar. If you don't know about Open Hearth, please search Open Hearth Gaming Community and come find us. You want to know more about that? Look online, see one of the earlier episodes. All I'm going to say before we get straight into the action is that we are playing with a set of safety tools. I won't reiterate them, but we are, and we're also playing with the Open Hearth guidelines on good play. So, because we think our table culture is pretty solid. So, again, earlier episodes, find out more about all of that. All these players have played with me a lot and play with the Open Hearth very regularly. So, without further ado, I think that this time our opening shot is of the USS Montgomery, which is a modified Nova class, an experimental prototype test bed, if you will. The USS Montgomery docked at the satellite, at the asteroid on which the outpost in the Gamma 7 system, the Federation outpost on the Gamma 7 system, is located. And we'll have our opening log entry.
Personal log, Stardate 48301.6, Lieutenant Risu Keenec reporting. We've been at Gamma 7 for nearly a week for resupply, prior to embarking on our patrol of the Delera Sector. I've spent this time working on trying to calibrate the micro-settlement fields in the replicators. There have been complaints about food not being up to snuff. I think people are just being overly sensitive with these new replicators. I've also had the opportunity to work with a couple of people looking at a rare Dilithium-Herbert-Matrix located in a system nearby. It's a crystalline, I don't want to say entity, but reactive system that bears a striking resemblance to the Horta discovered by the Enterprise a few decades ago. We're trying to see if this is merely an autonomic reaction or if, in fact, there's some kind of sentience or life here. I had the opportunity to oversee and review the records, but I may have gotten a little excitable and was asked to leave.
Thank you for that. And then I guess we cut to Vassal. Vassal, our helm and recently acting first officer. What do we see of you in the last week or right now?
I think that you see Vassal's in the holodeck. Why not? And he is in a Vulcan temple, and you have the actor that played Sarek in the previous flashbacks and incarnations of Star Trek, espousing the philosophy of it all. And Vassal is sat listening intently and has a wry smile on his face as he listens to all of it, belying the contradiction of it all. And and he as he leaves the holodeck, he types in. He types into his pad. You have the voiceover of Mother and Father. I am writing to inform you that I perhaps have made some. I bear some responsibility for our disagreements. I have perhaps been too hostile to the rigid logic of the Vulcan way, but it serves its purpose as do all the other species in the galaxy. Perhaps at some point we may reach a middle ground. I believe such a thing would only be logical. As he thinks back to, for Lowell's benefit, how he managed to solve a quantum collapse, chaos with rigid logic.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll probably, all three of you, do a breakthrough in terms of advancement. So if you want to think about the difference of a breakthrough and what happens routinely at the end of a mission, is that you have the option to tinker with your high concept. And certainly Vassal should now say acting first officer, for instance. But check out the recovery and advances tab either during the game or after this session, and you can get the benefit of a breakthrough.
Just on that note, can I just ask, Alan? Because I was thinking about possibly rewriting one of my aspects to reflect, the whole like transcendent experience or reality thing, but it feels like that would fit better with the high concept rather than any of those, because they're defined as background Starfleet relationship.
They are. They are.
Okay.
I mean, don't feel too bound now that we're in play. If you want to change an aspect, you get to change an aspect.
Yeah, but I'll try and keep them focused around the relationship, the Starfleet, rather than the.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks.
733T, your last log entry, I think, talked about how you were not entirely satisfied with the running of the Montgomery's engines, and talked about doing some more work with the engineering team. Now, I will remind you that so far you've been limited to warp 6, given that your engines are basically the same as that of the USS Equinox, which was lost recently. The suggestion being that there was a warp instability. So how are you responding to that? What do we see of you putting that log entry into action?
I think we see 733T. I think returning to a quarters after a sort of a double shift where Russo also bunks, or have we now returned to separate quarters?
I was going to ask you whether you wanted to, because since the departure of your guests a month or so ago, you could go back to having separate quarters. But I was curious whether you wanted to or not.
Well, I'll leave that to my guest.
I think I've probably forgotten that's a thing, and I've just been carrying on. And unless it is pointed out to me that you could go back to your own room, that he has continued to just come back here out of habit during the time between lab processes and watching the replicators run things.
I think, and again, it's exactly the same from my point of view, that pulling double shifts work is way more important than this background stuff. So I think you see 733T come into the room after the double shift and turn around to Russo and or Keenec and say, it just won't go past warp 6. There is clearly a design flaw with this vessel. The team have tried the hardest.
I thought the warp 6 was a safety protocol. Is it actual built-in limit on the engines right now?
The team haven't been able to push it past 6. Not in simulation, at least. There clearly is some override factor, and as you say, it could be a safety measure. I'm loath to push past a safety measure. Maybe there is something in the science behind it.
I'd be more than happy to come down and we can look at the warp field.
Superb, Keenec. That would be mostly appreciated.
Absolutely. Let me pull up specs from the Montgomery and the Equinox and the other ships in the same series, and see if I can get the warp field patterns.
We must have more power.
Okay. I mean, it'd be nice to have more power. So yeah, intense.
Indeed.
733T, I've never really asked you the question. Looking at your picture, there's quite a lot of you that is still Borg. Do you have to recharge any of those systems, or can you get by on, normal rations?
No, I think I do plug in the classic USB-C cable to recharge. We've been locked with USB-C since the EU made a directive, and we've never been able to get out of it.
Yeah.
So
too much red tape.
Yes, too much red tape. No, I think I do have to recharge. Probably not daily, but the systems do need extra juice that bioenergy cannot provide.
Okay, so does that mean that because we talked about the fact that your cabin before Keenec moved in was really pretty Spartan,
Yes.
is there one of those modified Borg recharging alcoves in the corner?
No, I think I have. You are correct. It is there, but it has been modified for more of a horizontal. I
Okay.
soon worked out that would freak anybody out, that if they came into the room and I was sort of like vertically recharging. So it's a combination of a recharger and a bed all in one.
Fine. That's great. Well, I've got a log entry of my own to read, if that's okay. Here we go. Personal log, Stardate 4830.1.2. Commander Han Latal reporting. It's 2 months since I took command, and I had just begun to get the outpost operating as it should. However, it is very inconvenient to have to deal with both the Vulcan delegation here to remember the loss of the Intrepid and a group of Bajoran zealots awaiting onward transit. And now the crew of Montgomery has arrived and disrupted everything with their unreasonable demands. Number one, what does he mean? Our base commander, outpost commander Latal, by unreasonable demands?
I mean, our captain is and it took me a second to place Latal in, I'm going to admit, Commander Prowl is, I think, quite high-handed and is demanding, extra power for the Montgomery. We haven't got the same circuits as the rest of the ships. We're a non-standard deployment, and we're just extremely pushy. I think, mainly the major thing, though, is that Latal doesn't like anybody who demands things as loudly as he does.
That's, just for old time's sake. Commander Latal.
I think as number one, Vassal has perhaps been the person who's had to. I think the captain is quickly tired of Latal's demeanor and sends me back and forth as the, go-to.
As the go-between. Fine. Then there is a memorial service in 3 days' time, celebrating the 103rd anniversary of the loss of the USS Intrepid, in about Stardate 4307.1. Long ago, the Intrepid was a Constitution class of the time, lost in the vicinity of Gamma 7. Vassal, are you keen to attend the memorial? Or indeed, Keenec and 733T, are you keen to attend the memorial?
I think Vassal's quite interested in attending the memorial. It's not often he meets. I think he's willing to see how willing the Vulcans are to have him among them as they go to that. And he would invite his colleagues.
I'm for the dead in space. I'll concentrate on the living, but thanks for the offer.
As expected, 732T. Lieutenant Keenec.
Yeah, I would love to go. The Intrepid's a great ship, a real gem to build.
Yes.
the reason there's a Vulcan delegation here is that the Intrepid was entirely crewed by Vulcans, and 400 of them were lost with the ship. So let's cut to that. Keenec, this is the first time we've seen you in dress uniform. How does Keenec wear dress uniform? Is this something he's comfortable in? Is he?
There is a lot of Picard maneuver, like pulling the shirt down because the fur kind of doesn't work with it entirely. I think there's a bit of that, and kind of standing around awkwardly, mostly kind of trailing Vassal.
Yeah. And a decent representative sample of both the crew of the Montgomery and of the outpost are present. Commander Latal is there. So is Captain Prell, your captain. And then you can hear these bells, ting, ting, ting. And from the back of the main kind of assembly hall of the outpost comes a procession of about a dozen Vulcans, and they are dressed as you would expect in formal ceremonial robes. Vassal, your mother and father are leading the procession. And there are those kind of frames with little bells on that we know from canon. And somebody striking a single bell in some kind of slightly out of sequence with that. And there is a memorial plate built into the structure of the outpost, memorializing the crew and the ship. Lieutenant Keenec, what do you know about the loss of the Intrepid, if anything?
So this was 103
3 years ago. Years ago.
So this would have been pre-Enterprise. We're probably talking Discovery era, kind of.
No. In fact, the USS Enterprise was called to investigate the loss. And the crew of the Enterprise discovered an interstellar creature responsible for the loss, not just of the Intrepid, but the entire living population of Gamma 7. Gamma 7A, technically. There is a B binary over there, but nobody deals with that much.
And the ship, did they find debris, or did it just vanish? Or
it was digested by this creature. And in fact, the reason it might stick in your mind is that it is until relatively recently, it was the single ship engagement that led to the most personal commendations by a captain of members of his crew, and quite a kind of significant bit of Star Trek history. Vassal,
I think one of the things we do know about the Intrepid is these are the sort of the earlier days where the Vulcans were just starting to really work fully together with Starfleet, and this was very much a Vulcan ship, and so I think that in terms of what the Federation knows about their mission and so on, we've been given what we need to know, but nothing beyond that.
I like that. It probably crops up in the Academy history section, but only in passing. Vassal, your parents kind of walk past you towards the front of this assembly, and then the Vulcans turn, and do you deliberately see to catch their eye?
No, because I think that they would view that as this is very formal and everything. I act as a Vulcan, as a proper Vulcan would do. But I do, of course, I'm fully aware whether I do catch their eyes and Vulcan, there was any halt in their step as they move.
What do you hope that the sight of you there, combined with your message, what do you hope that evokes in them?
I mean, I think the deep down secret, is that Vassal has always been envious of the bonds as expressed by other other species, and he would hope that there would be some level of warmth, even though he knows that that's never going to come from either of them. But anything would be an improvement in Vassal's eyes. Anything but hostility, which is what his mother normally expresses.
Indeed, and I think perhaps your father, played again by Derek Jacobi, catches your eye and just infinitesimally nods. The memorial is rather long, it's rather involved. I think you notice Commander Latal shuffling a bit in his seat. Captain Prell has to sit next to him, and that's not a good situation. But there are prayers, there are kind words. Latal is expected to get up and make some kind of contribution on behalf of Starfleet, which is clumsy and not very eloquent, and ends up, he expects there to be some kind of inspirational bit at the end, and people aren't quite certain if he's finished or not. And then it's over, and the Vulcans march out the way they came. There will be a reception afterwards. 733T, do you want to come to the reception? You are muted.
Why not, indeed?
And so all three of you are are at the reception. And as well as the Vulcan delegation and representatives from the Montgomery and representatives from the Outpost Command crew, there are also a group of Bajorans, a small handful of Bajorans, who seem to be rather keeping themselves to themselves. What do you do, Keenec? How are you in social situations?
I'm actually probably a little more comfortable with the Bajorans, given that we've established that I've spent some time back and forth on Bajor with some people. So I think I do kind of maybe thinking that this will be an easier interaction, slide over towards where the Bajorans are and greet them, in Bajoran sans translator.
And 733T, is there anybody in the room that you're keen to spend some time with, or are you just at the buffet? Or the nearest power source? I don't know.
No. No, I'm quite eager to engage Vulcans in conversation, because I feel I actually do have quite a bit in common with Vulcans.
Okay. Just a member of the entourage, or are you pitching high at the princess and the ambassador?
No, let's go for the entourage.
And Vassal, now you came to see how you might interact with Vulcans, given that you're Vitosh Couture. But
I mean, I think that Vassal will, he will speak to he will try and approach his father at some point. As dictated by custom and in the situation ceremony. I think.
Yeah, and precedents in terms of
yes,
he has to have the formal conversation with the captain and the commander because of their rank. But then there is a blessed pause from that difficult conversation for a difficult conversation conceivably with you. But let me go first to Lieutenant Keenec and the Bajorans. They seem vaguely surprised by your effort to kind of discuss with them in Bajoran. And one of them, you'll find him on the NPC tab, Vedek Aptu Maduri. is the leader of this small group, and he says you don't need to speak Bajoran and Mangala language. We are content to speak in a language that everyone in the room will understand.
I apologize. Back to Universal Translator. I apologize for offending you, Keenec. That is certainly not my intent. I had spent a number of years on Bajor.
And that's very interesting, though of course they are heretics.
Perhaps you could clarify that statement for me?
Well, I think it's self-evident. It is not possible for a non-Bajoran to claim to have found the prophets. Therefore, the authorities on Bajor that have accepted the man Sisko's claims are behaving heretically.
Interesting. So you are not part of the accepted Council of Edicts, I take it then?
No, we intend to. I and my followers intend to continue a search for spiritual purity, in order to find the true prophets.
May I ask then, given the nature of, and I say the full honorific name of them, as being present in the wormhole, what has led you here so far away from there and from Bajor?
We are in transit to the planet Gemulon 5. We understand we've been given, as if it was necessary, permission by the Federation to settle a colony there.
Oh, excellent.
I and my immediate followers will be setting off shortly, we are led to believe, by the outpost commander, in order to examine Gemulon 5, ensure it is a suitable place for our colony, and then my followers will follow, and we will continue our search in the sense of complete purity.
I say this knowing that you have the most skillful of researchers and scientists with you, but should we still be in communications range when you and your people arrive? If you have need of inquiries or assistance on exotectonics or other matters, I certainly would be glad to assist you.
My hope, frankly, Lieutenant, is that we require as little help as possible from the Federation. I believe to an extent the heresy that that other members of the Church have fallen into has been precipitated by the Federation.
I understand. Then, in the spirit of that, I hope that the Federation gives you as little help as possible. And I turn and walk away.
733T, how do we see you approach the members of the Vulcan entourage?
I think just a sort of sidle up backwards, as in back into them from the buffet, and then a 90-degree turn. And it is very sort of staged. It's not an accident maneuver. It is back, very close turn. Oh, I do apologize.
What are you hoping to get from them in terms of this conversation, or why were you particularly interested in talking to them?
Logic. Their pursuit of logic, and how by removing emotion, does that make them inherently better, or does emotion drive? Is emotion that spark which can drive
says one of
creativity
them.
and
Emotion is a distraction from such things as either creative or scientific progress. Emotion is something that gets in the way of the appropriate development of any field.
the Borg also feel the same.
Yes, and clearly they are not necessarily terribly comfortable, given how many of those implants are still attached to you. They recognize you're a Starfleet officer, and so they treat you with respect. But there is a reserve about the relationship, I think.
But as Starfleet is mostly made up of humans, and Starfleet did defeat a Borg cube, would therefore the logical conclusion of that be that emotion does play a part?
And I think there's a given the context that they're here to memorialize the loss of what was it to all intents and purposes a Vulcan ship. I think there is a slight sense of, are you aware of how many of the 11,000 lost at Wolf 359 were in fact Vulcan?
And I will have that figure precisely down to the correct number.
Vulcans are not necessarily a warlike species. We have done the very best to suppress those primitive instincts. It may well be that having those primitive instincts helped, but I would remind you that the Battle of Wolf 359 was lost.
I would say lost maybe for both sides. There was no clear winner.
That is a judgment, albeit illogical. I think then we'll cut to Vassal, because the other thing you will notice, 733T, is that before you kind of backed into them, the reason you got as close as you did, in a way, was that they were clearly looking across the room at Vassal and almost certainly talking about him. But Vassal, your father is standing there for the moment alone. What do we hear? What do we see?
Will bow to his father and, says, Father, it is a welcome development to see you here. I was unaware that you and Mother would be leading the procession.
We are to maintain a presence here as ambassadors. The Delera Sector is well beyond Federation boundaries, but it is thought that there is a need for some diplomatic presence in the sector. Though it is principally, I understand, the outpost is principally intended to keep a watch on the Cardassian Union. It is, and just for reference, folks, if you go to the Elcar tabs, you'll find Gamma 7 up towards the top left, just below the Rolar Nebula. And Delera Sector is the sector within which the Rolar Nebula is to be found. But I would like to say, Vassal, that your mother and I welcomed your recent communication. We did discuss what may have led to it.
On a recent mission, I was able to use the teachings of Surek to great benefit, not only to myself, but to the crew and to an entire station. Logic was the only key that could lead me out of the chaos of the extra-dimensional entity that had caused such a phenomena. And I have you and Mother to thank for that. And it is perhaps something that I have been unable to perceive before this point, that if you view my interest in other races and other species and other cultures as somehow a complete rejection of the Vulcan way of logic, And that would not be my desired outcome.
You must understand, Vassal, that no Vulcan can ever be denied an interest in other species. That would be illogical in the extreme. It is your holding to the beliefs of the Vatosh Katur that is the issue for your mother and I. If you are telling me that you are beginning to think again, then I would be glad to hear that.
I apologize, Father. I am here to clarify what I believe has been a misapprehension on both of our parts. I am not the one who has dictated that I follow the ways of the Vatosh Katur. That was a label that was bestowed upon me by Vulcan society, and in fact, by yourselves. I have not thought again, for I have not stopped thinking. I simply hope to perhaps clear up this incomprehension between ourselves.
We would welcome a return to Vulcan, where you might make a more public declaration of your change of heart, if and when that change of heart is deeply and sincerely felt.
Thank you for the clarification, Father.
Until then, you, and by association your mother and I, will remain somewhat on the fringes of Vulcan society.
I regret any discomfort this has caused you, and I hope that it has not been, the Vulcan High Command has not been so illogical as to have it impact your career.
He doesn't say anything.
Mm.
But
and
this is a pretty terrible corner for a diplomatic posting.
It is a pretty terrible corner, but perhaps, you know, Vassal's mother's got that way because she's a pretty terrible diplomat and can't compromise on anything.
Well, yes, you might say that. I'm sure she...
I just need a side character to say that rather than Vassal, right? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and just on the side character, we've only got the one side character so far. So, you know, if anybody wants to start creating some side characters, we've got an NPC called Chief Chew, but he's about the only member of the Montgomery crew that we've got anything on at all.
I do think Keenec will come over to Vassal after he sees the walking away of the dad, and will say, did I hear correctly that your parents are assigned here as diplomats on this station?
Yes. It does not seem an optimal posting for my parents, who were at one point in a position of great prestige within Vulcan society.
And I'll pause and I'll say, well, it's always been my impression that Vulcans make optimal choices based on the skill levels of people.
Perhaps you are right, Keenec, and I think he will smile as he ponders that one for a second and say, perhaps you are right. Perhaps it is not all the fault of, perhaps it is not entirely my fault.
Anything else in that scene?
I'll just gesture over at the Bajorans and just go, and tell me, did you make new friends there? And then listen to Keenec as he.
And I just look at him and I go, oh no. Do not like those people.
I think we'll then cut to the conference briefing room on the Montgomery with the captain and senior staff present, unless you have anything else you want to do on the outpost. 733T? Keenec?
No.
Okay. And Captain Prell explains he's called you together because I cannot bear Latal. He is endlessly abrasive and difficult to deal with. Thank you, Vassal, for taking point on our whatever necessary contact we've had with him. But he wants to talk to us. So he comes up on the screen. Commander Latal appears on the screen and says, Captain Prell, I have orders for you received from Starfleet. You are, as I understand it, to undertake a survey checking out-of-date planetary survey information and other cosmological, astrophysical phenomena in the Delera sector, in which Gemulon sits. Therefore, you will be transporting a small group of Bajorans. You may have noticed them at the reception after the memorial. You will be transporting them to Gemulon 5. There you are to undertake a, I suppose I should say, you should confirm the existing survey information. There should be a beacon that provides information in terms of the original colonization site identified some 50 years ago. And once you are satisfied, you are to put the Bajorans down with sufficient supplies to allow them to settle in, and then communicate to me so I can tell Starfleet that the rest of the colonists can depart. Any questions? Now, do any of you have a question, or do you have a question you'd like to put in the mouth of Captain Prell?
I do have a question, but I think I will address it essentially to the captain. For him to say, I had a conversation with the Vedic and his followers, and he expressed a deep desire not to have the aid of the Federation. Has something changed in the situation?
My understanding, says Latal, is that the next appropriate civilian transport could well be a month away. In that month, you can be at Gemulon and to have completed the survey. The view of the Federation is that the sooner this colony is established and members of the Vedic sect leave Bajor, the better.
I don't think this is a useful thing for Prell to say, but I think Prell's going to say, are we being saddled? We've been saddled with these Bajorans because you couldn't get your outpost in shape enough to get them sent on in time. I thought they were supposed to have left a week ago.
There is no truth in that, Captain Prell, and I find it offensive that you would suggest it. Paul, does 733T have any questions, or is there something you want to put in the mouth of Captain Prell?
No, all's good.
The Bajorans are ready to come aboard. I leave them in your care, Captain. Latal out. What, if any, preparations do you want to make as a crew to receive these 5, and in fact an entourage of about 15 or so more?
Keenec, are the replicators fixed? Many of the crewmen have been complaining, and I would hate for the Bajorans to not be able to replicate their local foodstuffs.
I believe the complaints have been psychosomatic based on my readings. I think a rumor got started that something was off, but I've run the calibrations on that, and the engineering team have gone over it, and they seem fine. But I will get the Bajoran food programs pulled up into the buffer. though they may have brought their own thing if they, depending on the nature of their particular sect. I will go through and make sure that the quarters are properly aligned, and anything potentially offensive has been removed. But I'm making a face like fuck those guys, you know.
I'm going to suggest that we take our first break there with those preparations being made. Would back in our seats on the hour be okay? Fine. See you then. And so after the commercial break, we cut to the Montgomery at warp on its way to Gemelon 5. It is a 3 or 4 week journey at warp 6. Assuming that 733 doesn't want to push the engines beyond that safety lock.
I want to go down and I want to spend my time helping 733T get these warp engines, get the simulations to run it, and get this right. Because the sooner we do this, the sooner we get these Bajorans off our ship.
Then Keenec, it sounds like you want to create an advantage using science. That then 733T can try to sort out what may or may not be the issue with this particular model or configuration of warp drive. So I think difficulty here is going to be, I think, because probably the Corps of Engineers are working on this as well. So I think difficulty is going to be 5.
Okay.
And no, 4 to create the advantage, 5 for 733 to solve the issue.
So let me go ahead and I managed to actually keep my roll with me up rather than closing it out. So let's see. So I have SciMed 4, and also I did take my +1 in engineering and raise that up to 3, since that's the other thing I've been using more consistently.
Okay.
And I did clear my consequence, because that's another thing.
Yeah.
So let's roll here. That is a -3.
That sounds like 1 versus 4 at the minute.
Yeah.
Fail and the GM says how things get complicated or succeed, but they get a free invoke on the possibly modified aspect that you're seeking to create.
Let's give Paul the free invoke with the possibility of a modification to the aspect. So does that seem fair? Because I still have an ability to help you with the collaboration.
So Keenec, phrase me the aspect that you think you've created.
Enhanced warp field stability.
Warp field stability. I'm going to change that into apparent enhanced warp field stability. 733T, difficulty is 5. It's an engineering task to build on that theoretical modeling that Keenec's done for you, to try to solve the issue with this particular configuration of warp drives. If indeed that was what caused the eclipse to disappear, blow up, get lost. So do your thing, 733T.
Do I have the engineering team available?
You can set them the task, indeed, instead of you doing it. So you can set them the task to build on this warp modeling.
But don't we get a bonus for having the team, or is that just
under engineering team? There's set the team a task, and then there is the engineering team.
Okay.
Yeah, so the engineering team has engineering of 4, so you can set them to do this. It's not a bonus to you, it's a task you delegate, if you want to.
No, I'll roll 5.
Fine. So 4 versus the 5, a free invoke on apparent enhanced warp field stability.
Ooh, 2 and 4. So a +2 won't do it.
I think at the minute you're looking at 2 versus 5. The free invoke makes it 4 versus 5. So you're still 1 short. You need to find something else.
This is where I'm going to use my talent. I have a stunt for this, Paul. So when I spend a fate point, you get +3 to the
and
task.
you do have engineering, so
yep,
awesome.
So that turns failure into success, but not quite success at a style with style, I think. So the aspect apparent enhanced warp field stability continues to sit on the table, and I might choose to spend a fate point to make the apparent less apparent. But yeah, that it looks like you've taken the kind of the governor off the warp drive. You think you've solved the problem that Starfleet claim is what caused the Equinox to be lost. So you now have warp 7 on the table, which will shrink. Which will shrink. Yes, you know that. Well, it's your maximum speed. I think that I've made the point that you can do warp factor 8 for about a day, but 7 is maximum cruise speed. 6 is routine cruise. So so warp factor 7 will take about a week off this trip. So instead of being 3 or 4 weeks, it's now 2 or 3 weeks. But I do want each of you to give me some sense of what proves to be difficult about carrying these Bajorans. Let me start with Vassal. Give me an example of the difficulties that having these passengers cause you or the ship's crew.
I think that they are constantly dismissive of Starfleet's role here. They say that they're continuously saying that the prophets are the people who've led them here, and it was all the prophets doing, and therefore, that's why they don't thank people. They don't. They're not polite. They just take it all as read, basically.
Take it for granted. I like that. What about 733T? Give me another example of how this is inconvenient.
I think they have complained that their call to prayer keeps getting interrupted by ship's comms at prayer time. So the captain, to placate them, is shut down ship's comms at call to prayer time. And that has a detrimental effect on the ability of the crew to be efficient.
To respond. So he, for an hour a day, he has to resort to runners, in effect. Lieutenant Keenec, you weren't desperately fond of these people to start with. What either deepens or alters your view?
I think that I don't think we have any actual Bajorans on the ship.
Oh, I think that Will might be wanting to create a Bajoran supporting character.
Oh, okay. But I think that they regard the Bajorans that are here, because the Bajorans that are here they probably picture as heretics.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I'm the one they keep calling for. To like when they have problems, when they want something fixed, that I keep getting called down, especially once it becomes clear that I do not care for them, that I can't hide that, and there's a certain amount of them tweaking Starfleet and the ship by making me run around on errands.
Oh, Vedek Maduri is not a nice man. And then drop out of warp in orbit around Gemelon 5. It's a kind of borderline class M. Lots of wilderness and arid areas, but enough water to have a colony on. Shall we have the science station run a local sensor scan, conduct a sensor sweep?
Absolutely.
So roll plus sensors to overcome 2. I think it's only 2. I'm not aware of any situation aspects that it play here yet.
Sensors are a 3.
And because you're better than that, you will get a +2 shifts of effect.
Okay.
You can make those sensors sing.
Or I can get the lowest possible roll and have to burn a fate point.
In order to get re-roll, presumably.
Yeah. I think this is my high concept. I am a science officer, so I have to get something out of this.
You do. That -5 on the dice becomes -4. So you're currently at 0 versus 2.
Can I assist?
It's worth a shot.
I will wander over from the operations control panel and say, your panel is not optimized, Keenec. Let me run it through a few stabilization routines, and it should provide some additional information that it's not originally displaying. And so this is science. Yes, I have 1 in science, so
That's
I can
enough.
assist.
You can. That adds 1 to your roll, taking the 0 to +1. And once that kind of once 733T has just tweaked the sensor resolution protocols, that turns it into +1. And because you have succeeded, you get an extra 2 of effect, because once you're on, you are an artist on the sensors. So you go from what looked miserable to +3, success with style. You have a boost related to this. What I can tell you is that there is no beacon broadcasting on a Starfleet frequency.
I'm unable to pick up the transponder beacon we should be picking up at this point, Captain. I'm getting in the standard sensor details, but we should be getting something from the beacon, even if it's on the far side of the planet right now.
You complete the kind of, you do a standard sweep, sensor sweep of the planet, take the full orbital journey, and there is no beacon. If you wanted to cash in that bonus, I would tell you something else, though, rather than keep it as a bonus +2.
I will turn that in.
There is, though, emitting from next to a small body of water, and I think I might even have a body of water on the ship's log picture. Yeah, there is a large body of water in the middle of all of this. Next to that body of water, you are getting a low-powered signal not using Starfleet frequencies.
I will say, Captain, I'm going to patch this over to communications to see if they can decipher it, but it's not on standard accepted channels.
So ops, comms sits in your remit. Do you want to see what you can find out about this signal?
Yeah, let's passively analyze what information is. So it's broadcasting.
It's broadcasting.
Fine. Let's passively analyze what that is.
Okay, so I think because I know what it is, I think difficulty is going to be 5. But it's an engineering task, because comms is engineering in this hack.
Whipped it by a load.
That, I think, is 8 versus 5, success with style. It fulfills all the characteristics of a Tzenkethi communications protocol. And you've got a boost. If you wanted to just cash that boost in, I could tell you something about the Tzenkethi, or I could tell you something about the signal.
Tell us something about the signal.
you think that the original Starfleet beacon has been modified to produce this signal. And again, it is low power. These beacons are not intended to operate, certainly not out of system and barely out of orbit. So this signal is being broadcast into orbit, and of course it spreads further, but weakening all the time.
Curious, Captain. It seems to have been replaced. It's our beacon, but modified.
Modified for Tzenkethi.
Mm.
Now
They
again,
could have colonized here.
Science, what have we got in the way of life signs down there?
I'll run that sweep.
Please do. Difficulty now, because you've narrowed it down a bit, I think it's just 4. Oh, you are on song.
There's too much atmospheric interference at this level, Captain, for me to determine the life signs.
Well, number one, I think take all appropriate care, but I want these Bajorans off my ship. So prepare an away team and investigate the situation on the planet. Who do you want in your away team? Vassal, do you want to delegate the away team to somebody else?
I think Lieutenant Keenec should lead the operation, sir. Both Keenec and Ensign Visa have requested they be relieved of their duties with the Bajorans, and I think this would offer the perfect opportunity.
Now, line of command here never trumps player agency. So, Lowell, it's up to you whether you want to take Keenec or whether you want to take a supporting character.
Who are you going to take, Paul? Are you going to go down as yourself or somebody else?
I will go down myself.
Okay. Then I will suggest to Saul, I'd like to remain on board to see if I can get further details, maybe pick up some traces on any ship or life signs. Number one. And then I think you'll hear Enter Devillic from security go. And we should also have a security team go, right?
Of course, Devillic, you would be my third choice on the team. In fact, Lieutenant 733T will lead the away mission, sir. I will remain on the station to. Will we taking a shuttle down or a beaming?
You tell me. I mean, given what Keenec has said about atmospheric interference, you might be better off in a shuttle than beaming down. But I don't think the interference is a significant barrier. I'll be honest.
Well, no, but let's make it enough of a significant barrier to justify taking a shuttle down out of the budget of the TV show, right? I think basically the Bajoran member of crew I wanted to define was up in the air until we knew who the. So no longer Ensign Visa. Maybe I'll make her lieutenant, and she's going to be the second helmsman on board the ship, while Vassal sits up here. So she'll pilot the shuttle down.
Okay. So does that mean that you're going to make Con more than 0?
Yes, because before she was a medical officer.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. I'm with you.
I've literally just found out the role she's playing in that 5 seconds of conversation.
That's fine. That's fine. So Keenec will stay aboard. So will Vassal. The captain never leaves that command chair, it sometimes feels. And so 733T will lead the away team comprising Ensign Devillic and Lieutenant Vrisa AD, who will be flying the shuttle. Now, I'm conscious, I think, Will, that you've now created 2 supporting characters. Are you content with that, Lowell, as the other person going down?
Oh yeah, but Devillic is near and dear to all our
belongs
hearts.
to everyone. Yeah.
I mean, technically,
Devillic has gone and gotten a phaser type 2, even though probably shouldn't be taking a phaser type 2.
I feel like it's technically your quick character, Alan. So.
Oh, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Oh gosh, such complicated stuff. So yeah, I think that probably I think, given this is a Tzenkethi signal, and the Tzenkethi are known to be stubborn. What were the words I wrote down? Aggressive and territorial. Then I think probably security can take a phaser rifle, and Type 2 phasers are issued to both pilot and engineer. Is that okay? So I think the issue then for Lieutenant Adi, our Bajoran pilot, is how far away to put the shuttle down. Is the objective to make a very open approach to this, or not?
The Tzenkethi are hostile, right? To
They fought several border wars in the last half a century or so. Short, sharp engagements for the most part. Some with the Federation, some with Klingons. They didn't win either. And so they have, to a large extent, withdrawn from diplomatic contact. So not a lot is known about the Tzenkethi, it's fair to say.
I think that Lieutenant Viscerade was told by Vassal to go in low, close to the surface, see what the sensors will pick up before you land. We may be eager to get rid of the Bajorans, but let's not drop them into the laps of, let's not drop them in, burn the colony in a war if we can avoid it.
A quick search of the computer archives will reveal a picture of a typical Tzenkethi as encountered so far by Starfleet. In the NBC tab, you will find them. They stand between 11 and 12 feet high. They have 2 manipulator arms and 2 heavy-duty arms. And what the records describe is a race, a species that is, as I say, aggressive and territorial. Best analysis is that they're pragmatic because they did not push engagements they were losing. But they are physically very tough indeed on a one-to-one with any species you have on the ship. So with that in mind, 733T, I suppose I should have asked you where you want to put the shuttle down, shouldn't I, as away team lead?
Let's go for within short walking distance at night.
Okay. Do you, and so I suppose what I'm trying to get to here is, do you want your arrival to be secret?
Indeed.
Okay, so AD, I suppose the challenge for you is to put the shuttle down close enough, but without drawing attention.
Well, it's easy. There's a natural water feature near the signal, right? So that implies that there are rivers, there is some sort of water, there are valleys with which to hide the ship through. It's just going to take some close flying, and
it is.
The prophets guide these hands. So a day is more than confident in your ability to do so.
So difficulty in order would be 2. I think goes to 4 because of that requirement to get down at night without drawing attention.
That's a +1.
Okay, +1 on the dice, 4, 5. Oh, see, +1 overall.
Yeah.
So we see that. Describe putting the shuttle down. Describe what we see as you put the shuttle down.
I think it is. It's following through, entering through a cloud bank, going down, skirting over a mountain, and then hugging the terrain all the way through. As we come through like a mighty river, maybe dry riverbed or something that's a huge canyon coming through that, and coming through like a cliffside that takes us onto like a shallow kind of like a bay almost on the edge of like an inlet almost side, where we can touch the shuttle down, surrounded by the rocks, and it's kind of like tucked away from the major surface of the lake.
Great. And there are these kind of rock formations, because there always are.
Looking suspiciously like a quarry. Yeah.
Well, one of them particularly kind of angled in a certain way.
Yeah.
Just to as fan service. And I guess that 733T, it is probably, given that Sappers clear the way, I guess that you head up this rocky kind of upthrust to get a view over the top of what you can see.
Indeed. So should we get some environmental aspects?
Would you like, because certainly it is currently dark, it is currently hot, and I don't think there's much in the way of vegetation talk unless you've got something in mind.
Let's have rocky.
Fine. Rocky terrain. All three of those situation aspects are on the table.
So yeah, let's climb up to the top of this rock stack and see what we can see.
I think from the top, you can see that there are actual fires, campfires, 3 or 4 campfires, about a couple of 100 yards away. And there is sign of activity there. You want any more, you need to roll something.
Campfires don't seem very technologically advanced.
They don't, do they?
No. Okay, let's go back to the team, and I'll tell them what I saw. Some campfires. So slightly concerned about their use of technology. Maybe they're a crashed party here, looking to be rescued. I don't think this is going guns hot, so I think we should begin with some sort of diplomatic. What do you think, Tavalic?
I recommend caution, given what we know. There have been battles between the Federation and these people before, but I will be in ready position should we need to make a move.
I mean, if we need to make a move, Tavalic, mine's bigger and points at the shuttle behind. What we're dealing with is some stranded refugees with campfires. We could just approach with a shuttle and open comms. That's the most diplomatic way.
I think a face-to-face would go a long way. Who came highest on their diplomatic training at the academy?
Insight or command? Probably insight is the diplomatic approach.
Oh, well. I have some training in that area.
Ade looks dubiously at you.
Very well. How about...
You think it needs a human touch then, sir? Well,
that's why I think you may be useful. Tavalic, do you... I liked your idea of being ready to pounce.
Yeah,
you think
you get into position, get the phaser rifle out, I'll get the high ground, and you can give me the orders and call them down.
Excellent. I knew you'd rain fire when it's required.
Yes.
Superb. Hopefully it will not come to that. Very well. A day, you and I, two females. Let's go into their camp and bid them welcome.
Well, I haven't had a girls' night out since the academy, Lieutenant, so I'm looking forward to it.
I think this will be a very different girls' night out, but let's see how it plays out. And I think at that we'll wander into their camp.
Keenec, sorry, Tabilic. I'm sort of assuming that at the top of that rocky upthrust, where 733T made the first observation, is that your eagle's nest from which you're going to set up the rifle? I will post hoc allow you to create the advantage aiming if it comes to it, and I'm seeing AD and 733T just walking towards the campfire. Yeah.
Yep.
And there's a guttural shout when you get within about 40 yards of it, 40 paces of it, 40 meters of it.
And I think into a universal translator, hail, we bid you no ill.
Now, it must be said, the universal translator in Tzenkethi is a little sketchy. So you're going to be limited to fairly basic comms here, simply because you've not had that much contact with the Tzenkethi. And you can see these enormously bulky figures beginning to kind of form up in what looks like a defensive posture. They're forming a circle of sorts around this camp. And who goes there? The translator kicks in.
We're with the Federation.
This planet claimed Tzenkethi coalition.
You seem to have our signal beacon.
Signal beacon abandoned.
Not abandoned. We're here.
And I will lean over to a day and say, whisper, they may have a good legal statute. If we don't have anybody on the planet, it may be hard to argue claim. Just discovering a place does not technically bring ownership.
Well, then I guess we're taking those Bajorans back with us then, sir.
It's a very large planet, though.
Well, perhaps we could discuss this.
Advance. And a light comes on, mounted on the shoulder of one of these Tzenkethi. I think it's interesting to both of you that they're not illuminating. Not all of the lights are on, just one, and you're spotlit in this. And I guess, Keenec, that gives you a +2 if push comes to shove. Whichever one has got that illuminating lamp on. And you get to within about 20 paces. And what do you do, 733T?
We wish to legally discuss your claim and your actions on this planet, your intentions.
New Tzenketh is Tzenkethi. No federation here. We claim.
The planet's big enough for both of us, surely. This could be an opportunity for both the Tzenkethi and the Federation.
Opportunity struggled a bit. No need federation. Await colonists.
And I would like to try and squint through the light and take a read on the Tzenkethi encampment, I think.
Okay, so I think you are trying to discover something, you're trying to ask something. Do you want to discover an aspect on this camp, or are you just wanting to ask me some questions about it, which may turn into aspects?
I think I want to ask you questions about it more than defining it.
Okay. Okay. So let's have you roll. I think this is probably security. So I don't know if you're best place to do it, or whether this is something Keenec is doing from a position of height and scope.
Civic.
Report. Difficulty would be 2. The fact that it's dark makes it 4.
Oh, you've got to spend a fate point for that, Alan.
That's true. I do. You're quite right. Well remembered. There you go. I've invoked dark.
So Ensign Tvilic will roll with security. So that gives me a 4.
So you're on a tie.
And let's
on a tie, I will answer the question. I will give you something about this encampment.
Oh no, we'll spend the fate points.
Okay. And then you get 2 more questions.
Does this look like an organized Tzenkethi encampment, or like a marooned, more scattered, like a crashed planet kind of situation?
It does not look organized. You identify about 20 Tzenkethi. Not all of them are in the firing line that they formed around the campsite. And you can see very little in the way of standard equipment, bulky generators. There's very little, there's none of that. It looks like whatever is there was Tzenkethi ported in on foot. So you get that as your answer to your basic question. You've got 2 more questions you can ask me.
Second, what are the transporter coordinates of our beacon?
Okay, I think probably it's in the center of that encampment. So I think that with the scope, you can get that reading.
Yeah, gonna paint that and relay that to the ship.
And you've got 1 question left if you want it.
I'll throw that to the other 2. What question do you think we should? I can relay to you.
Can I just ask before we didn't translate the Tzenkethi beacon, did we? We just identified it as
you identified it as protocols. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I'm prepared to tell you that it was really a signal, a consistent repeating signal.
Yeah,
you might infer from that it was not, messages.
I think I'll relay that to a day and a 733T. I say, this looks from here, it looks like this is a crash site. And based on what you were saying earlier, I think that's just an SOS. I think they're stranded here.
Maybe if we tell them we're here to reclaim, they say we've abandoned it. We're here to reclaim our lost beacon, and they won't need it. And if they're awaiting colonists, they won't need it.
And I think that's probably the point at which, through to all 3 of you will come. Montgomery here, we're picking up some signs of a warp core explosion about 2 weeks walk away from your current location. It could be that a ship has downed there and there's been a warp core explosion.
Okay, what I want to do is we want to offer them. We want to offer them some way to get off.
We still got 1 question.
You do have 1 question.
I would actually like to turn that, and I would like to inform the ship that be ready to beam up, 3 to beam up, and the beacon on 733T's signal if situation goes problematic, and get the transporter chief ready to do that, relay that to 733T.
This is Chief Chew. Transporter room 1 is prepped. 733T, what do you do when you hear someone whisper in your ear?
What, that's not through a comm badge?
Not from your comm badge, no.
I'll spin round.
There's nobody there.
Found crashed Tzenkethi ship. What was reason for crash?
I don't think that you're going to be able to get that without a really detailed look at the crash site. Simply
No.
Oh,
that's what I'm
you're
saying
asking.
To them.
Oh, I'm sorry. No crash. Colony. Do you want to try and get a read on them?
Yeah, let's see if he's bluffing.
Let's have you roll with insight, 733T, against his command, which is only 3.
Oh, I'm at -1 then. Minus lots. Even with some assistance from a day, it's inside. That's not going to. I'm going to need a re-roll, but I don't think really. Well, yeah, I'm going to invoke tech will overcome any problem, because the universal translator should be able to pick up if they're lying.
Okay, well, we'll begin to... The universal translator is getting better with the exchange.
Okay.
This isn't quite the longest exchange ever with the Tzenkethi, but it's approaching that. So you were... Reroll. Wow.
That's still pretty bad. -3. Can't really do anything about
that. So I think things are going to get complicated, which is leave or die.
We must reclaim our beacon. It is Federation property, not Tzenkethi property.
Leave or die.
Wait, the beacon, it could explode. That model is dangerous. That's why we're here. It's got a radiation leak.
I think that probably that is the point when a warning shot is fired. One of them unleashes a Tetrion blast just past you. Leave or die. No more warn.
Free to beam up.
And the beacon.
And the beacon?
Yeah.
Chief Chew is in Transporter Room 1 when you appear back on the ship. What do you do, 733T, when you hear that whisper in your ear again? And it's not
I need to report to sick bay.
Okay. While 733T is in sick bay, what now you're back on the ship, are you going to continue with Stabilic, or do you want to go back to Keenec level?
I will go back to Keenec because right now I want to start calculating, given our location, given a 2-week window, given the very modest strength of this beacon, how likely is it that the Tzenkethi have picked up this signal already? And get that worked out.
I think that's SciMed versus a difficulty of only 2.
So that's a 4.
So success by 2. There is no question in your mind that this is going to take decades to reach Tzenkethi space. It's not a subspace beacon. It's just a standard orbital, this is where we landed beacon.
And I will pass that on to the captain. I'll say, Captain, the beacon itself, it's highly unlikely that they have picked that up. However, they may be patrolling in this sector of space for their lost ship. But that does give us a reasonable window of time. We should be able to pick up Tzenkethi warp signatures if they enter the system, because they're not going to come in close to planet if they're doing a sweep of the area. We might want to flood the atmosphere with tetronic radiation, which would mask the signal and make it impossible for their ships to pick up the downed craft.
I hear that suggestion, Keenec. Number 1, what's your view?
From the away team's report, it seems as though these Tzenkethi are marooned, stranded, dependent upon our beacon to make their signal. We have no way of knowing whether the Tzenkethi have picked that signal up. What is our mission here, Captain? Is it to assist the Bajorans in settling here? In which case, it would seem to me we need to remove the Tzenkethi, offer them passage off-world, and deny them our own technology, which is now presumably sitting on the ship, I think, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's been transferred down to engineering, where I dare say the engineering team are just retro engineering it to work out as much as they can about the Tzenkethi signal as they can as possible.
Then I think Lassal's point is just going to be that he thinks that without that beacon, the Tzenkethi will eventually have to ask for our help, or accept it at the very least.
Okay. 73T to sick bay. What's the nature of your medical emergency?
I've heard random audio tones through my systems. Is any of this actually recorded?
I don't think so far. There's no reason why you shouldn't, now you're in sick bay, that the doctor shouldn't be able to kind of interface with your systems. I mean, you have some systems in place that would allow that to happen, so that if you are hearing things, the biobed per se can't record that, but I think it's possible to come up with some way of recording it. So what, you're going to book yourself in for observation overnight kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Who do you want to play while 733T is in sick bay? Do you want to create a supporting character to do that?
Yeah. Play Vassal?
No, let's go with Chief Chew.
Okay. So if you want to just down there on column DU, you want to put Chief Chew in there.
Yeah.
He's chief, isn't he? So I think he's probably at least there in terms of rank. You've got a 4, which will be in engineering, 2 2s and a 1. But you don't have to put the 2 2s and a 1 in yet. You can deploy those when the situation requires it. And the chief's going to fill in on the bridge, presumably, while 733T is laid up. Okay. Keenec, flesh out this, because number 1 asked the question, what's our mission? So I think we probably cut to the captain's ready room with Vassal, Keenec as 2 of his senior officers. Our mission is to get those damn Bajorans off my ship. The question is, do we have an obligation to the Tzenkethi if they are indeed marooned, or if they claim not to be marooned, can we treat them as if they are? Views, gentlemen?
I believe we have a responsibility an ethical responsibility to the Tzenkethi. However, the planet is big enough that we may continue with our settlement, and lacking the resources to lay claim to the planet or even make contact with their own civilization, we will simply wait for the Tzenkethi to either compromise or escalate.
What if we put the Bajorans down on the other side of the planet?
It'd be a longer time before the two sides encounter one another. It would allow the Vedic to do the survey that he has said he wants to do, and it would appease them for the time being, especially if they are put down with their standard supplies and without, say, ground transport or shuttlecrafts, so they can do their survey within that area. It would be quite a long time before either party would meet one another. And in the meantime, we can work out negotiations with the Tzenkethi. We'll need to be ready in case the Tzenkethi ship does appear to solidify their claims, to be able to get Vedic and the others off of there. The question, a long pause from Keenec. The question is how much you wish to keep the Vedic in the loop on these developments. If he is informed about these, he will insert himself into the process. If he is not informed about these, he will squawk like an angry... Well, you don't have these creatures on your planet, but they squawk quite loudly. They scream like babies when he finds out.
Number one?
Is it not Chief Tube? I already spoken.
Sorry, I thought Vassal was in the meeting with Keenec and the captain.
Oh, okay, so it's just the three of us, yeah. Sorry, I thought we were on the whole round table. Yeah, I agree that the survey may not meet the Vedic's expectations. This may not be a suitable planet for our Bajoran passages. They may insist on traveling with us further, or at least abandoning their project. Perhaps we should leave it. I think that Keenec has a point. We allow them to undertake their surveys, and then we will find the answer to whether we need to continue our persist with our presence here.
Okay,
from what our crew observed, I'm completely
Tzenkethi.
The Tzenkethi, yeah, sorry. The Tzenkethi appear to have limited amount of resources. I'm sure that the Montgomery and the shuttles and our security team will be able to provide sufficient security to enable the Bajorans to continue.
Very well. I concur that the Tzenkethi present a negligible risk to a colony placed somewhere on the other side of the planet. Keenec, find me an appropriate colony site. Number one.
Captain, about my proposal to obscure potential scans of the system.
I'm not particularly comfortable with making it difficult for the Tzenkethi to rescue their own people.
Fair enough.
So find me a colony site. Number one, keep the Vedic sweet. I'll be on the bridge if you want me.
We will. I understand that we will, if once they are willing to accept that they are marooned here, we will be more than happy to pass on their message to the Tzenkethi Federation.
Yeah, but let's get the Bajorans on the ground.
I'll leave it with Lieutenant Today.
733T. You spend the night in observation, and at intervals, the Doctor is able to capture what you're hearing. You are picking up some broadcast or other. It's clearly not from the beacon, because that's being dealt with in a Faraday cage in engineering somewhere. But I think the Doctor says to you, what does it feel like? Because it just seems to be an extraneous broadcast. You are muted.
It feels like somebody talking, but I can't understand it. What actually does it sound like?
I mean, it does sound like layers of whispering. I tell you what, engineering, difficulty is 3. Let's see if you can help the Doctor, or for the Doctor, using engineering. Try to slow it down, speed it up, split it out. Difficulty is 3.
Yeah, I'm joining Lowell with crap rolls today.
Well, there's always a fate point for an engineering task.
Well, there is. Let's re-roll. Let's re-roll that, because that was abysmal.
Don't we love these swingy fate dice? Yeah. So that goes from failure to success with style. When you slow it down, it's actually a whole. It's a number of different, I want to say, voices layered one on top of the other.
Okay, I'm thinking very much from the original series episode where there's the person that, I mean, the physics behind it is terrible, but there's the people that have been speeded up beyond the speed of light. Kirk can hear them, can't he? Or they accelerate him in time. And you find Thingy at various poses around the ship, not doing anything, and he swaps the key card in his hand. Okay, so if we slowed it down to an audible level, what do we get?
4 of 8 broadcasting to the Borg Collective. Ship down. Seek rescue. And laid on top of that is 3 of 8, and 2 of 8, and 1 of 8, and 5 of 8, and 6 of 8, and 7 of 8, and 8 of 8. You're picking them up through your implants.
I will leap from the medical table and rush to the bridge or wherever the captain is. If it's twilight hours.
Captain is on the bridge, anywhere to avoid the Vedek.
Captain, we have a possible Borg situation on the planet as well.
What? And that, I think, is where we take our second break.
Nice.
Back at the table at 5 past the hour.
Yep.
See you then. We return from our final commercial break in this episode on the bombshell that 733T appears to be picking up a transmission from a group of Borg.
Captain, move the ship out of orbit immediately. 2 ships have been downed, one of them of superior technology to the Montgomery. Leave orbit now.
Cut to number 1 and Vedek Maduri. In the first offices, you have an office next to your quarters. And clearly we come to you, as Maduri is saying, I demand that you land us on the planet. This is simply Starfleet delay, Federation interference.
Tzenkethi, as I instructed you, Videk. they are rather formidable opponents. My understanding is that you did not serve in the resistance during the occupation.
That's got nothing to do with you, and nothing to do with the situation. From what you tell me, there's a small group of marooned aliens on the planet. Then I don't see, what are they going to walk to find us somewhere?
You have rather long strides.
That is flippant, Lieutenant. I do not expect that from people like you. Now, I think you need to be trying to pacify him enough to get him off your collective back.
Yeah, but we are. I mean, this is what we want as well, isn't it? You know, is him for him to settle it. I guess the only thing we're really arguing about is the time frame within
exactly.
It, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So what I want you to do is to decide, you're going to use insight to convince or command to tell.
I don't think Vassal likes him very much either. Command to tell, I think.
He's not a very likable man. Difficulty is his command of 3.
No, would it have been easier with the persuade? That's a flat tie.
So on a tie, you are looking at failure or success at a minor narrative cost.
Let's have success at a minor narrative cost.
I think the minor narrative cost is that he is going to go back to his people and they're all going to be angry at you. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a clock which has a 4 on it, and 6 on it. I'm going to mark the first segment, and every scene that we get past is how close to boiling point he gets and doing something with his frustration. Okay. Keenec, back on the bridge when 733T comes up with this striking revelation.
I'll say I will begin scanning specialized subspace transmissions. We know something about the way that the collective communicates. Maybe we can pick up and pinpoint where it's coming from.
Okay, that sounds like it sounds a bit like analyze a hazard, threat, or unknown phenomenon, or is this conduct a sensor sweep?
Down with that. I like the analyze a hazard.
Okay, so let's have you roll. We're using computers to create an advantage. Okay. And if your PsyMed exceeds computers, you will get +1 shift of effect.
I have a PsyMed of 4.
Then you will be on a winner. Difficulty here is 2. I'm going to make it 3, I think, just because
I have a total of 4 after the roll.
Success.
So success by 1 and then +2 effect. So success by 3.
Okay, so success with style. It's not coming from the planet. It's coming from the moon. The moon of Gemilon 5. That's where this transmission is coming from, and unlike the beacon or the adjusted beacon, this is being communicated on subspace.
Yeah, the way they do that with the transwarp
the way
subspace.
They do that. Yeah,
I got that with style. Can I ask a further question?
Yeah, or you can hold a boost in relation to that.
I have a question here.
Go ahead.
When did they crash? Is it the same time as a Tzenkethi or not? That's really important to know.
What would you prefer it to be?
I would prefer it to be they crashed at the same time and the Tzenkethi had an interaction with the Borg.
I think that they did indeed crash at the same time. And I will tell you that you've not really done much in the way of an examination of the Tzenkethi ship because it's most of it's vaporized by the warp core explosion. But the remains of the Borg ship on the moon, I think I can tell you, is where are we? There we are. I think it is rich in tetrion radiation. It looks like there may have been some interstellar phenomenon that led to a burst of tetrions, which may have caused the Borg to crash. Whether that was before or after an interaction with the Tzenkethi, I don't know. But the Tzenkethi do in fact use tetrions as their weapon of choice.
I will brief the captain, but I'll also, like, how we have described being able to send info from one station to another. I think I do that gesture where I take all of that info and I throw it over to 733T's station.
733T, do you want to do anything with this? Because you have an advantage to play with here, which is we know where they are with a free invoke.
What's the Federation's? Are we at war?
That's a difficult question. I mean, the Borg are a clear and present threat. They have been relatively quiet since the intervention of the Enterprise post Wolf 359.
Yeah, I mean,
the Voyager isn't back yet, right?
No,
Okay.
the Voyager has not even gone yet.
Oh,
I mean, they're basically like an existential threat, aren't they? Like, that's the way they're always portrayed in Star Trek, is that, like, there are no cordial relationships of any kind.
No, they are
the
clear and present danger.
Yeah, so does this lead to an automatic orbital bombardment of them? Or is this attempt to, I really need to know
where do you think the captain is on this spectrum, given what we know about him so far? I'm not quite sure what Keenec is doing there.
That's my orbital bombardment gesture. I'm pretty sure that's where our captain is.
I don't
taciturn and disillusioned. We've never worked out why he's disillusioned.
It would depend, right? Like, because in Star Trek, it's literally whatever you want the episode to be.
Exactly, it is.
You want to bombard. I mean, generally, the Star Trek thing would be to go check something out, right? And bombard from orbit when it goes wrong after a filling escape.
Because what we do know from canon is it is possible. We have examples from the Enterprise and its work with a Borg survivor called Hugh, that in the end called himself Hugh. So it is possible, and 733T is an example of this. It is possible to get people back.
Yeah.
Are these dangerous, or are they potential rescues?
Are you compelling his high concept there?
Well, I am prepared to compel it if I must. I think 733T, you escape the Borg, you live a fulfilling life as a consequence outside the collective. Who is to say
that we should investigate these 8 before we engage? But clearly they've sent a subspace message. I think that is a large threat. I'm still concerned about what downed both ships. And is that a risk to our ship? And right down the bottom of the thing is the Bajorans. I really couldn't really give two monkeys about settling some colonists. I think we've got a risk to the ship, a possible risk to the ship. We've got a risk to the Federation. So we need to act swiftly. And I think the Borg are the higher risk than the Tzenkethi on the planet.
So give yourself a fate point, because I think I am going to compel that that background free Borg. there is no reason why you shouldn't work from the assumption that these could be freed. Keenec, you seem to be, looking to Villic, who stands there at the tactical console, just hoping, the captain is going to say, unleash a spray.
I think at this point, I will kind of look, and even though the captain hasn't said it, I will say number 1 to the bridge.
Number 1 to the bridge. Vassal, you're on the bridge.
And I'll throw Vassal the briefing.
Captain Prell and 733 are in conversation, about what is the realistic possibility of freeing these Borg. But what do you do, number 1?
Gather an away team, Lieutenant Keenec. We're going to need to say, I think we're going to need to gather an away team, Lieutenant Keenec. Are you willing to lead it?
An away team where, sir?
A tap at the Borg signal from the planet.
From the moon.
From the moon, sorry, the moon, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Again,
absolutely.
No overcoming of agency here. If Keenec doesn't want to go, you can nominate to take a different character.
No. I think I'm going to self-compel Enix's obsession with inorganic life there.
I was kind of hoping I wouldn't have to, but give yourself a fate point. You will absolutely lead the away team.
Absolutely.
Who do you want with you? Which is my way of saying to Paul and Will, who do you want to take?
I think
because you have skin in this game, so I'm giving you first choice.
Yeah, well, I think really I've got to take 733T. I mean, that's a massive opener. Yeah, I think it would be silly not to.
Okay, so Keenec and 733T. What about you, Will? Who do you want to take on the away team?
I think a day in the shuttle. I think Vassal's going to recommend to the captain that they go to yellow alert, which is shields up, isn't it? But not like weapons ready. Basically. It
is, and it allows me to make that go yellow, which I get enormous amount of pleasure from. So AD will fly 733 and Keenec to the surface of the moon. Meanwhile, number 1, what, if anything, are you suggesting the captain needs to do about the Tzenkethi, or is that just shelved now?
I think that we've got atmospheric interference, right? We should. But we've got time now. We know that the Tzenkethi are not active, whatever. We know where they are, the ship and everything. We should get the science team, maybe bring the ship above the crash site directly, and bring it in. We can bring in the Monty to the atmosphere if we need to, right? Because
the Montgomery is capable of atmospheric landings, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe not an atmospheric landing, but a real sort of like the shot is of the Tzenkethi looking up as they see the Montgomery like streak through the atmosphere towards their crash site.
Okay, I've just marked the Bajoran patience clock for the second scene that we've had. I'm going to set another clock at 6, which is Tzenkethi stubbornness. And you can try to erode that Tzenkethi stubbornness to see whether you can get them to agree to even talk, maybe.
Well, could that be? I'm happy to return to that, but could that be a role then in terms of making sure that Monty is visually imposing enough?
I will come to that in a moment. But Lowell, I thought you were going to say something. I wasn't certain whether that was Keenec.
No, I was just listening.
Okay. So we've got the shuttle departing. That classic shot of leaving through the shuttle port at the back, heading down towards the moon. AD, let me ask you, what's your judgment about where you want to put this down? Because you've got a very good location on the crash site. It is in a crevice probably caused by some meteoroid impact. There's a big crack, this canyon, and the signal is from the bottom of that canyon. Where do you want to put the ship, where the shuttle down? AD? Will?
Apologies, sorry, I was too busy typing up the outcome of the last conversations.
No.
Yeah, I think as close as possible to the Borg, to be honest, so we can make a good getaway if we need to.
Do you want to go down into this canyon? You know, I'm thinking narrow canyon. We see
if it's close enough
wreckage.
to go down, 100%, because that's the cooler shot, isn't it? You know,
It is. So let's just see if there's any problem on the way down. I think difficulty is 3. Let's have a pilot that down without any mishaps.
I'd love like you know, like big headlights, sort of like scanning spotlights, scanning through the canyon as the ravine comes around. Forgot to turn my VPN off every single time. I need to reconnect.
We must have a couple of red shirts, yellow shirts with us too.
Yeah. You need it in any encounter with the Borg, right? We got I got a 1 and a 2 on the dice. I have for 4. What was the difficulty again?
3.
3. Then that is currently a match. I will spend 1 of her fate points.
Go ahead. You know, she is a you know, training helm officer or whatever you've given her as a high concept.
Combative Bajoran pilot who was a refugee was what I went for. So
there you go. There you go. So yeah, that's fine. Spend the fate point and you put her down. And I guess what we will see as you come into land with the kind of downlights illuminating the crash site, you come in over the crash site. There was some debris on the surface. It looks like this ship came down. A small probe ship, maybe. Some debris on the surface, but most of the debris is down here in the canyon. And I think you will see these 8 Borg going about their business, trying to undertake some repairs of the ship. 733T, now you're in the canyon, the broadcast, the way they are communicating to one another and to you now is very clear indeed. Keenec, this may be the first away team that we've seen you lead. What do we see?
I will turn to you, 733T, and I say, I'm going to begin scanning, but I need us to know what steps we need to take if we are to bring one or more of these people, these Borg, out of the collective. Do you have any sense of that?
They won't be combative unless they feel threatened or they need something by us. To bring them out, it will require some convincing or isolating.
I've set up a 4-segment clock that I've marked Borg aggressive intent, because you're right, they tend not to be instantly aggressive unless they see some value in what you bring to the table. So Keenec.
I'm going to do scans at range.
Okay.
Here, using the shuttle, because I don't want to get too close in case they perceive the shuttle as something they need to make their escape. 733T, you take a couple of the officers, and I gesture to the red shirts, as backup and begin, but keep in constant communication with us.
Of course.
So I might even suggest that you're in the aero shuttle, because we've not seen that on screen yet, because you don't need to be warp capable. So it's bigger, more roomy, and therefore you can certainly have a couple of red shirts aboard, or yellow shirts as the case may be. So the scan from there will use the aero shuttle's sensors, which are 3.
Okay.
So 3 against a difficulty of, what are you trying to find out?
It is more that I want to create an advantage for 733T. I think that's
Okay.
what I'm actually doing.
Fine. So you want to get the
Because-
lie of the...
In terms of our briefing here, right? Like, because we compelled the idea of rescuing the Borg, but in the Star Trek canon, that happens when they're isolated. There's a mistake, there's a phenomena, there's something that disrupts it from it, right? So I feel like what we're actually hearing is we're still at the point of what the hell's going on here with the Borg, and perhaps that could lead to us rescuing them. Perhaps it will lead to the let's take off and nuke it from orbit option. Does that, let's make sure we're on the same page? And
that's where I am. I think you're right.
Yeah. What I'm imagining is you're trying to create the advantage lie of the land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will turn to a day and I will say, be ready to launch at any moment. Keep constant track in case they activate something tractor beam wise or atmospheric wise.
Keenec, I haven't even turned the engines off.
So there's a ramp at the back of the aero shuttle. I think we see 733 coming out of there, but Keenec, let's have you roll to create an advantage.
Okay.
I think difficulty here in terms of lie of the land is 3.
Okay. So that's a 4.
So on a 4, that is success. And I think that is you have a free invoke on lie of the land with 1 free invoke. There is in the chat. So that's on the table, 733T. What do we see you doing as you step out at the back of the airlock at the back of the aero shuttle?
Let's approach these 8 Borg that are milling. I take it they're trying to repair their ship, aren't they?
They're certainly trying or build a more effective transmitter. They are trying to get rescued, I think it's fair to say. And so your appearance on the scene will mean that I mark 1 on the Borg aggressive intent. When all 4 are filled, they may pay a less than passive interest in you. But yeah, I think that as we've seen in previous series of Star Trek, they're busy kind of constructing stuff. They're busy working on stuff. They've ignored you and the ship at this point. What do you do?
I'll broadcast when I get within sort of close range. 1 of 8. This is 733T, previously of the Borg Collective. Your distress signal has been heard, and I am answering.
Okay. I think that probably Borg don't work much on insight. I think this is command. So command versus their command, I think their command is probably 3. So command versus 3. And you have lie of the land to work to here to give you a bit of an advantage if you need it.
With lie of the land, that is still only a tie. I will spend a fate point as I am ex-Borg.
You are indeed. So you have some understanding of the protocols. So that turns that into excess. So it seems to me that you have got their attention. So I am going to mark that second segment on the clock. You've got their attention. I think all 8 of them stock still, and then all 8 of them turn to face where that broadcast came from.
Okay, let's... Yeah, I want to convince
I tell you
them...
what, let's cut back to the ship for a moment. Vassal, what, if anything, is going on the ship? Well, is everybody's attention on that away team, or you wanted to talk about bringing the Montgomery in low, didn't you?
Yeah, and I would like to have Videk, scowling on the bridge.
Oh, yes,
like,
demanding to see the captain.
complaining in the ear of the captain.
Permission to power up weapons?
Good old Davidic.
And yeah, that won't be necessary, Ensign, Vassal says as he brings us in. And he says, Videk, if you look over there, and he points over on the view screen as we come past, that's where the Tzenkethi encampment is. And then we cut to the, I want to do that. I think this is me trying to show the Tzenkethi that the Montgomery is here, that we are. It's the gunship, you know what I mean? Like
it is.
Here, we've got the Monty, right? They've got nothing.
You're putting a tank on their lawn.
Yeah, which well, let's see what the dice roll is, because maybe if I get an extra one, that'll turn into a mollifying the Videk somewhat with the mic,
Well, I think probably that I'll make this difficulty of I think 4 because of the nature of the species.
Yeah.
And it's your con to how low and impressive you can make this approach look, Vassal.
Difficulty of 4, you said?
Yeah.
That
So you're on a -1.
I'm on -1. I will spend I'll spend another one of my fate points. Did I spend one of Vassal's? I don't think I did. No, I did do. I will spend another one. Starfleet is more than ships.
Starfleet is more than ships.
More than just this ship. This ship is a symbol of all the other ships that Starfleet is as well, right? And everything else. So that takes me to a +1, I think. Yeah?
It does. And on the basis of that, I will mark that 1 on Tzenkethi stubbornness being eroded. So actually the clock should say eroding Tzenkethi stubbornness. Back to the planet. Keenec, you're getting probably some feed from the camera that's on 733T's shoulder, the shoulder of her suit, because there's no atmosphere on this moon. You're seeing the approach, and then that kind of sinister when they all turn as one to face 733T. What, if anything, do you do, Keenec, at this point, or do you just watch?
It's amazing how well coordinated they are. I mean, I understand they've got the subspace signals, but there's something more going on here. I mean, how much is it? Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that was out loud. I'm just waiting and like pulling in all the sensor data, organizing it, but I'm also I'm also beaming it right back to the ship in case we get killed.
Fair enough. 733T, you've got their attention. Their aggressive intent is at 50%. Oh, you are muted.
I'm going to engage them in social combat that they will join us, is where my position where I want to be. What's your position?
Okay. They want to join the collective. I think you need to prove to them that you represent the collective. Yeah? Does that apply?
You sort of tricking them into believing that you represent the collective, and that would put us in a position to, de-indoctrinate them, right? Like, because currently they're just like, they want to obey the collective no matter what.
Because they are getting the signals of the collective, the subspace,
Yeah, I was more going to think that we are superior, so therefore they should stop their actions and lay down their weapons to us.
I mean, the only way that we know that Borg can be freed is by breaking that communication link. So if this is about getting them somewhere where that link can be broken, I'm in charge, follow me.
Well, if that's it, then I should just say beam up to our ship. It's warp capable and has got a massive sensor array and could easily send a larger signal.
But then they just destroy us.
Yeah, they will assimilate because you have what they need. I'm just not clear where the social combat is gonna take you in the terms of, because it's not like they're people that you can convince, right? They are part of a collective. They're like worker bees.
Okay. It's
So-
just
so-
we've got these clocks running, and
We have.
it's going to clock up way too quick. I've not got command. I'm more than
Well-
happy to walk away and just say nuke 'em.
No, because if Keenec were to set up what amounts to a Faraday cage on board the aero shuttle, then the social combat becomes, can you convince them to follow you into that trap?
Yeah, let's go down that route.
Keenec, so this is about you creating a sufficient, either I don't think a force field will work, because we know that they adapt to these things. But I think
no, but I can get a modulating harmonics field going up. I just have to tear open the food replicator at the back of the arrow thing.
And we're back to rocks into replicators. So
Yes.
733T, let's have you attack them then. I think that there are 8 of them, so I'm going to give them 4 stress to overcome. Yeah. So attack them with what command? You're
I'm
ordering
trying to
them?
get them onto the.
I think that's the idea, because that's the only place you can isolate them from this subspace signal if Keenec's plan works.
And I'll coordinate with you on this. I'm very excited about this.
Okay, yeah. Let's roll. Yeah.
Okay, so 4 of them. Command. What do you got?
Yeah, we're -1.
Anything to spend?
Yeah, I'll spend tech. Tech will overcome any problem.
And I will
Tech.
spend a fate point to give you a +3 from collaboration.
So that turns a marginal success into a complete success by 3 or 4. I've lost track. It's at least 3. I think it's 4.
So now we're on +4.
+4. So with that 4, each of them turns towards you and begins to move in the direction that you want them to move. Yeah,
Towards the back of the shuttle.
exactly. You're leading them. Your back is turned to them. You are leading them. They think that you are with the collective. Keenec, how good is your apparatus?
Let's find out. Let's see here. So let me roll here. So that's a -2.
This is an engineering task, I think.
+4 is a 2. And I will spend my last fate point for obsession with inorganic life to give it up to a total of a 4.
So 4 against the difficulty here, I think, is only 3. So that's success. You have established this harmonic field. And at the point when they come up that ramp at the back of the ship, through the force field that keeps the atmosphere integral, and the door comes up, and that entire rear section is hit with that harmonic field. And all 8 of them go.
A day
And
get us out of here.
that, I think, is where we will finish this episode. Part 1, part 2 next time.
Nice.
Yeah? 8 Borg in the aero shuttle. How can that go wrong?
We need the fate point refresh to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, in part, that's what I was thinking. So yeah, let's pause it there. We'll have a quick stars and wishes. In the order I can see you. Will, any stars, any wishes?
I quite like this whole scenario with the stranded people, the Borg, and it's the classic, like, you think it's just this, and then it gets bigger, and then it's more complicated, and it's a good good setup for a two-parter, I think, and lots of potential mysteries and complications.
Any wishes?
Wishes. I mean, the inevitable escalation into some sort of shooty, flyy explosions, etc. Right, like having to pilot a ship through anything or anything like that. I'm obviously looking forward to that part. But
of course you are, yes. And I keep trying to. We will get there. We will get there.
Yeah. But the Tzenkethi, we have a common threat here, perhaps. I like it to come to. I'd like, even if it escalates into shootiness and everything at some point, I would like us to try and come to some sort of accord with the Tzenkethi. I think that's very Star Trek,
Tzenkethi Accord, inverted commas. Can't promise success, but I can certainly offer you the chance to try. Paul, any stars, any wishes?
Good build up. Enjoyed that, and a good unfold for some simple, then became a bit harder, and then became a even bit harder. I'd like to see a bit more engagement in some of the sort of fate mechanics. I'm not too sure we're there with them yet. Okay. So yeah.
Okay, and Lowell, any stars, any wishes?
So I like that we've got a Borg thing. Especially because it gives us an interesting framework of, we don't kind of know what's going on with the Borg yet. Like we're still in very early days of that. We don't have Voyager back. We don't have, meeting like late Enterprise Hugh and the weird dimensional things and all of that. And it's one of those things that makes it really interesting about 733T, like a dangerous thing we've done. Bringing a Borg or a person who has at least been partially assimilated into our sort of ranks, and I think that's great. Right. So I'm very excited about that. I liked all the other interplay stuff. Frissa, Vedic, like all the different character stuff was good. So I dug all of that stuff. And as Paul said, the escalation of levels moving up is really sharp. I have one wish, and I don't know if it'll work, but I want to see an assimilated Tzenkethi. I want there to be like maybe something happened and they've got like locked down there with the other Tzenkethi, like a Borg Tzenkethi, and they're like don't know what to do with it or something like that. Or I think that would be the coolest thing.
Yeah, we haven't seen that on the television. Okay. No. Thank you for that. I'm going to stop the recording with that. I just my star was I really enjoyed playing through the Memorial for the Intrepid, and being able to bring the parents back, and for there to be at least, if not a thawing, maybe a slight rise in temperature in that relationship. And also thank you all for playing, indulging me with Latal, bringing him back from a previous series. So now I will stop the recording.